What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Good evening, and thank you for joining us. Today, we have kind of an interesting show. If you're joining us today and you are on DLD After Dark, appreciate you. If you're joining us today from Flying Rich, we're going to go ahead and bring him on in a moment. And if you are joining us today from Josh, FatTac Josh's Black Diamond Guns and Gear, aka his podcast channel, which is the Off the Range podcast, I welcome you. I was speaking with Josh. He unfortunately was unable to make it, but because he thinks that this information is so important, he asked me and Flying Rich to get this information out. And me and my esteemed colleague here, whoopsh, Flying Rich, are going to be going over the debate that recently took place, and we're going to be airing the debate, and we are going to be pausing it, going over some of the facts that were fact checked, and we're going to be fact checking the fact checkers. And again, Josh said he's sorry he could not make it, but he
Josh is
wanted
in the
you
chat.
guys. Yeah, there you go. He's in there. He wanted to make sure that his viewers as well were able to, hear this information too. So, yeah, go ahead if you want to start. What we can do is, Rich, have you introduce yourself, and I'll introduce myself for those that
Yep.
may not know us, and we'll jump in.
Yeah. So, Josh, thanks for letting us broadcast on your channel. Also, that's a privilege, and
Mhm.
I have mad respect for Josh. I'm Flying Rich. People know me from John Crump Live or my own channel, Flying Rich and Flying Rich Firearms. I'm a Second Amendment absolutist, and
Mhm.
I can't talk about much more. But yeah.
Yeah. There you go. Well, it's funny. We talked earlier today about like if you could sum up what you do in just like 2 words, to a absolutist. There you go. That's
Hmm.
beautiful. Um, a little more than 2 words, but you know what I mean. Yeah, and I'm Dark with DLD After Dark. I run a show on my YouTube channel, DLD After Dark. Run a company called DLD Hardware, where I help people get jigs and tools to be able to build, firearms in the privacy of their own home with zero governmental overreach. And also, Rich and I are starting a new company. It's called Definition Knives. So we got that going for us. A lot of really cool knives. Currently, definitionknives.com is not operational. We're working on stuff on the back end. It'll be, a couple, maybe a few weeks. But currently, if you want to check those items out, you can go to Instagram, type in Definition Knives, all together, no spaces. I mean, don't type in definition knives altogether, no spaces. Just type in definition knives. You'll be able to find us there. So, this evening on another platform that has a green play button, we we did a live viewing, I guess you could call it, a live viewing of the debate. And I got to say, I was displeased with the way that things went down. So after getting off, we finished up, we jumped off. It was myself, Flying Rich, John Crump, and Devin with Trench Work, Trench,
Trenchwork Chronicles.
Trench Work Chronicles. Sorry, love you, Devin. Um, Afterwards, we got together, we had some conversations, and I feel that things were unfair. There was a lot of dishonesty. There was a lot of really, I mean, just deep down in her bones, there was some things that I was just like, "Man, you're lying with your body. Like, you're not even just
Dude,
lying with your
I
words."
I hate to say no disrespect to Crump you or Trenchwork. I don't think I'm if I knew what was going to go on tonight, I would have done this on my own channel and I would have been yelling and screaming like a crazy
It
person.
was it was hard. It was hard for me to just shut up. I had to remain muted the entire time. It was difficult. And dude, I'll tell you, man, I'm concerned because when we look at this, if we look at the debate and what happened through our lens, we're looking at the debate by like we know we believe truth is going to win, we believe the light is going to win, and all that stuff. But the reality is that if you're just an average Joe in the general public and you are not really involved with things politically, or if you're not a lot of us are like single issue voters, and man, people are going to be looking at her delivery, the manipulation of information, the misinformation, the way that she delivered things, and I'm not scared, but I'm a little bit uneasy that I I I believe that if the majority of the general public watched that and we saw the same thing, they're gonna be like, "Man, she's right. She's saying all the things that I wanna hear. She's delivering the information to me in a way that I can accept it." And she's like, "We need a president that's a leader. We need a president that's gonna, work with care and compassion and everything to you and, work with you and your goals and your future." Like, man, that was the biggest heap of bullsh that I've heard in so long.
Well,
She
and
lied.
Trump did good in his closing statement. He's like, "Yeah, all that. You mean make America great again?" He didn't say that, but he said, "3.5 years. What have you done?"
Yeah. Well, the other issue with that is that, again, trying to look through a different lens, I think what he said at the end was powerful because I'm looking at it through my eyes. What other people are going to say is, yeah, but why didn't he talk about himself and what he's going to do? He only talked
Oh,
about her and what she's not done. You know what I
the
mean?
other line I wish he used was the Reagan line. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? Bazinga!
Mm,
That
yeah. Yeah. Good point.
if he closed with that,
Yep. How are you going to, how are you gonna give the power back to the people that have caused
mhm,
the last and look, there's no, like, none of us have this illusion that anyone is gonna be our savior, right? Like, we know with certainty who our savior is, and it is no one that's running for office. Unless we see Jesus
right?
on the ticket, we're certainly not, you know, it's
But
all, but
we
it would
we
make our
always
lives easier if things would improve, the country would be better, and things would be we'd be a lot better off if Trump was our president. That's it, and I believe that.
in I
Even with
just want
his
to point
faults.
out, yeah, with faults, and that's something I want to highlight on is all of the great people of the Bible. Most of them were highly flawed individuals. And
Yep.
whether it's David or Solomon or Saul,
Mhm.
who became
Saul.
Paul, who was
Mhm.
hunting and killing Christians, and then he ended up writing two-thirds of the New Testament.
Mhm.
All of these people, in each of their own ways, were highly flawed.
Yep.
Maybe they were real good at one time, and both Solomon and David later in life, went astray, I would say.
Yep.
But they did significant good things, and God uses flawed people, and I think that's an example for all of us. That I, one of us, Dark. If you're perfect and lived a completely godly life, raise your hand, and same thing, everybody in the audience. Look,
Look,
there's crap I've done that my wife and daughter don't know about, and I mean, if they find out, I'll fess up and say, "Hey, yep, that was me.
uh, there's lots of
Been there,
shit
done
that
that."
I've done that my wife and daughter don't know about either. But look, as long as you grow and develop and become a better person, then hey, so we know he's flawed, right? We know, but you have to think back to the time that he was president and the last 3.5 or so years that you've experienced, and you have to make a decision on which one you would choose. And for me personally, I voted for Trump several times, and I will vote for him again, and it is what it
Another
is.
several times.
Yes, another several times. I'm actually concerned because, my father had voted for Trump several times, and now that, unfortunately, in July, he passed away, I think this will
Mm.
be the first year that he'll vote Democrat.
Ooh, my father-in-law who passed away, he was voting Democrat. He might still.
He might still this year. Man, and you know what? Okay, that's kind of a grim joke, right? But, I mean, look, that's the reality of what we're dealing with here, you know? We I think part of the reason why Trump just showed up and was like, "I'm just gonna kinda freestyle this," is because he, like many of us think, is that honesty will win, truth will win, and we're just gonna go in and tell the truth and be honest, and everyone will see through it, and that's just not the
Hmm.
case, man.
Hmm.
You like you said, fight crocodiles like a crocodile,
Yeah,
Or
I
what's
look.
the phrase?
Matt Hoover thought he was going to win his case. He thought,
Yep.
hey, the all of this is truth, and everybody will see it for the truth, and I'll win.
Mhm. And he's doing 5 years in a federal penitentiary
Hmm. In Club
because
Fed,
because the other side did not they weren't even playing the same game.
right?
Like,
Right.
it's so I think it's important that we get into the debate. We're actually we demonetized all of the streams, so none of them are monetized. We, are going to be playing the debate. We're going to stop.
Disclaimer.
Yes, we're gonna play a disclaimer first because this is most certainly fair use, and we're not even, monetizing the streams as well. But also, we're gonna be able to, play the debate, stop it, evaluate what was said, and pull up the truth in that moment. And if there are some people that, may be kinda teetering on the edge, I know there's a lot of folks that, and it was brought up recently. A lot of folks that are in, different communities that don't trust Trump, think he's a racist and all this stuff. And they're literally going to vote for Kamala because she said she's not going to take our guns. I'm talking about communities within the 2A community that are about freedom, liberty, and independence that just couldn't even bear, standing to vote for Trump, which in my mind is insane. Like, how could you ever be a part, and I hate to say the 2A community, but look, it is what it is, right? It's like saying the screwdriver community, the broom community, right? It's a tool that everyone should own, but alas, here we are. How could you ever be in the 2A community and take a stand for freedom, liberty, and independence and say that you're gonna vote for Kamala Harris? Like, what? But it's because you're misinformed and you are misunderstanding, or you got, a fatal, condition called TDS, whatever it is. We're gonna go through it tonight and give as much truth and fact checking, real fact checking as possible. So, you wanna go ahead and roll the disclaimer?
Yep. Yeah.
Is there anything else you
You
wanna
gonna
say first?
edit? No. Let's roll. Let's move.
Okay, let's do it.
Notice federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, or re exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, blah, damn, and that stuff.
The views and opinions expressed in the content I'm just kidding.
Bum,
Maybe
bum,
we should even
bum.
do, like music.
Oh, Jesus Christ, it's Jason Bourne.
Hi, my name is Justin Sterling. I'm an attorney and the founder of
Hey,
the Sterling
hey,
Firm of
hey.
Listen,
Professional
folks.
Law Corporation.
Where did that come from?
It's part of the
All
fair
right.
use thing.
DLD After Dark is hands down the best podcast in the country. I mean, hands down, folks. There's no other live stream like it. That Dark guy really knows what he's talking about.
Thank
Oh,
you.
and fuck the ATF.
Oh, ayo. Okay, you ready to go ahead and bring him in? Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to introduce the most really terrible hosts.
This is an ABC News special. The most consequential moment of this campaign. Kamala Harris.
Together, we will chart a
Ban
new way
fracking.
forward.
Donald
I
Trump.
can't stand
We
that
will
voice.
soon be a great nation again.
Face to face.
All right, let me drag ahead.
This stage who has a
Oh.
final clip.
All right,
Notifications or responses. Their microphones will only
minutes.
be turned on when it's their
President
Are they going to shake hands? No shaking hands?
Kamala Harris. It's up good debate.
Have fun.
Thank you.
Did she say
welcome
so
you
good to
both.
meet
It's
you?
wonderful to have you. It's an honor
Something
to have
like
you
that.
both here tonight.
Good evening. We are looking forward to a spirited and thoughtful debate.
So let's get started. I want to begin tonight with the issue that voters repeatedly say is their number one issue, and that is the economy and the cost of living in this country. Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle class kid, and I am actually the only
Marxist.
person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the
I gotta stop. I gotta stop. She wasn't raised middle class. Her
Of
father
course
was a
not.
Marxist professor.
Professor. Yeah.
Uh, it, she's not the only one with a plan. How do you
I,
even say that? You
we
know,
can't we
it's
can't even say that she has a plan. I've never seen a plan. e- I mean,
well,
ever
the only
laid
thing she
out in
does is
front.
steal Trump's plans.
So here's the reality. If we look at 4 years of Trump and nearly 4 years of their administration, if you had to, just based off of your own individual experience, put in chat right now, who are you going to vote for? Like, let's be honest.
You can do a T or a K. Uh, dude,
And let me just, I want to add one thing.
there's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So yeah.
Sorry, we'll talk about that later.
and offshore drilling.
Yeah.
I got that. I got that. Where
And
is
it's
it?
just
Here it is.
hilarious because she's like, I have
Well,
never
we'll save
said.
it for that.
I
We'll,
know,
we'll
I know.
all right. She's 3 words in.
Ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's
Skirt.
the
What
thing.
plan?
We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing, and the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion, one of them, is small businesses. My mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small
Pause
businesses.
for a quick second.
My plan.
I just want to add this. In the past, when there was the what $3,000 child tax credit or whatever it
Yeah.
was, in the past, I spoke to two different CPAs, and both of them said that there was one year where you could actually take it early during COVID,
Oh
and
yeah. Yeah.
we had talked to my former CPA about it, and then I was moving to another CPA. Both of them said something very interesting. You know what they said? They said, if you choose to take this tax credit, you will be taking it out of your next year's return.
Oh shoot.
So if they give people a $6,000 child tax credit, number one, what's going to happen to the people that don't have children? And all those people that don't have children, if you're voting for Kamala Harris because you think you're going to get $6,000, that's a really disingenuous thing of her to do. One, two, she said that she's going to enhance families with a $6,000 credit, and then in the next sentence, she calls it a child tax credit, which, by the way, will come out of your total return.
So I want to hit on a couple of things. First off, I don't like Trump's posture. I don't like his facial expression. He looks like a grumpy old man. And
Yeah.
I think he, facially could have done a lot better.
Posturally, all of that, his whole energy.
And
But
and I don't
let
know
me
if Kamala's just used to doing this.
probably, yeah, and the hand
Yeah,
motion. Let
I
me add
hate to
this
I
though.
don't
I'm gonna, and you know me, I'm not the Trump simper. Okay, I'm just saying, think of all he had to do to get here. Think of everything he had to do to even agree to take this, right? Think of everything he had to do to beat all these cases to get here. Think of this is the person that's been pulling the strings that have been trying to destroy his life. So
Yeah,
I don't blame
yeah,
him for having
yeah,
a scowl on his face,
yeah, yeah.
He hates her.
Yeah. I just kind of want to get a little bit of body language out of the way. Dark and I have talked about this in the past week about her incessant nodding,
Ooh,
which is a communication technique,
yep.
and that's to like, oh yeah, and then you start nodding, and that just kind of
It affirms what she's
subconsciously,
saying. Yep.
yeah. So that's a technique she tries to employ all the time, and it just drives me crazy. So her motions, her voice, I can't stand that voice. Anyhow,
Is to
Yeah.
give a
Really
$50,000
quickly
tax
to kind of
deduction
just
to startup small.
let me add real quick. So what Rich is saying is that if you're talking to somebody, and I like that Range Minded podcast said he took a bullet to be here, literally.
yes,
I what he's saying is that if someone is talking to you, right, and they want you to say yes, if as they communicate, and this is there's a whole bunch of different tactics to do this, and usually they train people like her highly in nonverbal communication and also things like NLP, which is neuro linguistic programming. Um, it is very easy to manipulate people to do things or not do things when you're using these types of communication skills. For an example, if they want you to think yes or say yes, they'll be nodding while they're saying what they're saying to m- basically make you internally and subconsciously think yes and or agree or take action on something in that favor. So that's what he's referring to.
Businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to
that's a
America's
lie.
deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get.
Okay, so this is a tariff that he's talking about. Now, I'm not necessarily in favor of a tariff. I'm in favor of targeted and limited tariffs. Tariffs can increase the end cost to the consumer. So
They can,
I'm
yes.
just gonna say it also, every country has tariffs, every country uses tariffs, and you have a tariff to protect your homegrown industries.
Yep.
And
From
so
outsiders from other countries that produce the same things, and part of
with
that comes
slave
from.
labor.
Yep. And this is why, in most cases, imports are really expensive because of the tariffs incorporated with them, because of the, getting them from point A to point B. So by the time things get here or things from here get somewhere else, they're usually a little bit more expensive, especially when you're charging other countries way more. And over the last 4 years, we have charged less than we have, and I'm not certain about this, I'd have to actually pull it back up, but what I had seen in the past is that over the last 4 years, over this administration, we have charged less in tariffs to every other country than in percentage-wise in the entire, like, last century.
It through the month. Economists have said that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle class families in about $4,000 more a
All right.
year.
In these economists, so there's, I don't know if it's 10 Nobel Prize winning economists. These guys, yes, they won the Nobel Prize for economy. They have been wrong on everything.
Yeah.
And they are, it's the same methodology when they had 61 intelligence agency people sign off on the letter saying that Hunter Biden's laptop was a Russian fake, and it's been proven, and it was known 4 years ago that it was real. The FBI, CIA, everybody knew it was real, but because they liked them, they signed off on it. So, yes.
So,
Because
real
of
quick,
his
this is an interesting thing. Excuse me. So Range Minded Podcast says, do you guys think he's changed after the assassination attempt? I heard someone say that when he was down on the floor, it was almost a spiritual experience for him. Um, My take on that is a little bit different. What are your thoughts, Rich?
I think, look, I hey, we all handle guns. We all know how deadly they can be. Uh, if I've walked away from two plane crashes, and I would say I'm largely unchanged. Within, you know, pretty much hours of each, I've been back in a plane, with no, stress or anything like that, no PTSD. I think if, like, somehow I was at the range and 5.56 round skimmed my ear just as I turned my head, whew, yeah, I that would be a life changing experience for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was life changing. I think in the spiritual sense, I think all of us are believers, all of us are followers of Christ, and I think when and maybe it's had an impact, and maybe it hasn't had the impact yet that it was intended to have. I don't know, but in my opinion, if the event would have brought him to Christ, in my opinion, you're so on fire to talk about God that he would not be able to not talk about it. You know what
Mhm,
I mean?
mhm, mhm.
So
Yeah, yeah.
he may have had a spiritual um, encounter, or a moment. He also may still be digesting it, but
Mhm.
I'm definitely like just totally um whatchamacallit, like just spitballing or whatever you call it.
His policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
President Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because it was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible.
And I just want to, everything Trump said is true so far, and I'll call him out. I know there's a couple of things he said. I'm like, but look at the facial expression. So she's been highly coached and highly skilled at managing those facial expressions. So that's
Yeah,
a key
very,
element here.
very. Look,
Economy,
yeah,
because inflation has, which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at
Oh, hold on. I'm sorry. ABC on the fact checking. So they actually fact checked that statement. Let's see. So uh let's see. All right, so this is the Nobel laureates, and they say mostly true. But let me find Trump claim inflation. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our history. And it says false, but it's very high. And then it goes, and I've actually read through. So this is ABC News. I've read through their fact checking. So the synopsis will say like fact check false, and then maybe a little caveat, and then you
yeah,
read the two paragraphs after. It's like, yeah, no, they actually say it's false. But if you don't read the entire thing, you're not gonna see that.
yeah. Well, and the other thing too is that let's say in 2020 it was 20%, 2021 it was 20%, 2022 and 2023 it was 20%. And then in 2024, it's 15%. What they can say is that we're doing great. Inflation is just fine. Inflation is down 5%, which if we were at
Right.
15%, then we could say, well, in 1917, inflation was at the highest rate that it's ever been in the United States, which was 20.49%. So we're not at the worst it's ever been
Hmm.
by 1%. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
But it is and intellectually dishonest, like, approach to it. You know what I mean?
it, and I think I'm going to give Trump a pass here because he speaks in hyperbole.
Hmm.
It's like, oh, this is the best. This is a very, very good thing.
Yeah.
That's what he does.
Yep.
21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a
Yeah, like freaking
Yep.
gasoline or eggs.
Groceries.
few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking
Look at that face. That's like, oh, isn't that cute?
I
Keep
know.
lying, Donnie.
She's queuing up her
jobs
response.
that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions.
Oh,
Unions are going to
not
be affected
that.
very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that she and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do
Amen.
it again and even better.
We are going to get to immigration.
Okay, I want to pause that. He spent too much time attacking and not enough time promoting himself.
Of course, he was this entire debate, he was very defensive. And
Yeah.
honestly, it goes back to just simply the fact that she started.
And I think he could be. Like Reagan had a couple lines. He's like, "There you go again," and that would have been a wonderful retort. And then, hey, let's talk. I was president. Things were freaking great. I made
Yeah.
the best economy ever. And anyhow, let's go on.
Immigration and border security during this debate, but I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression.
Okay.
Donald Trump
That's
left
not
us.
true. That is factually untrue.
And
we
hold on, let
can
me check the fact checking
we can
because
pull it up.
I'm wondering.
Yeah. But I'll tell you,
Employment. Harris claimed Trump left us with the unemployment since the Great Depression. Fact check needs context. The unemployment peaked at 14.8% in April 2020 when Trump was in office, but that was indeed the highest level since the Great Depression, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. But unemployment rapidly declined in January 2021 to 6.4% by the time Trump left office. So
he was already making changes to impact jobs in the U.S. By the way,
again,
right now
like so
it's at
twice
4.2%.
Trump saved the economy.
Yeah.
Once when he got in, and then again after COVID.
So let's say this. So let's say that when he left, it dropped down to 4.2%. Okay. Because what she has is talking points that will sound mostly true. Okay. And guys, for anyone here that may be kind of in the middle, we're going to be digging into what both of them say. All right. This is not just going to be 2 hours of us sucking off Trump. Okay. But let's say that it dropped down to 4.2% in January of 2021. Okay. Do you know what it is right now in this moment?
Oh, I have no idea.
4.2%. So that means in the last nearly 4 years, nothing has changed. Oh, okay. Sorry. That's not from January 2021 to today. It's 4.2%. So all of these domestic jobs and everything that they're doing to work on the economy clearly hasn't done.
Okay. So there's a
damn
couple of
thing.
problems. The unemployment statistic, there's like the U6, which is tracking people that aren't looking for employment.
Yeah.
And that's basically you drop off the reported number of unemployment after 6 months of not getting a job. You're not technically considered unemployed anymore.
Yeah.
So the U6 number is almost never quoted. And also, any jobs that were created typically have gone to illegal aliens and they've been in the food service industry like McDonald's.
Or they've gone to the general public so you can check out your own groceries at the end of each shopping trip.
Mhm.
Us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War.
We are not
And
a
what we have,
democracy.
We're a
If
republic, a constitutional republic.
correct, and the
But
fact that they constantly keep touting it drives me nuts. And democracy is akin to socialism.
yeah.
It's absurd.
So the other thing here is she talks about the pandemic like he created it, like he was Fauci funding the Wuhan lab.
Yeah.
He wasn't.
He did
have done is
also
clean up Donald.
he piloted Project Warp Speed, and
Which, yeah, all right, like intellectually honest, yes, he did the Project Warp Speed, which I think was a deadly toxin, probably
yeah,
worse than the COVID.
which had already been being worked on since the year 2000 when the CDC took out the first patent for the novel COVID-19 vaccine trials. So it wasn't Project Warp Speed. It was project we've already been working on the ship for 20 years.
Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us. And I
Yeah,
pledge
the
to
most
be a president
divisive
for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute here to.
absolutely the
And
most divisive administration in the last century. And she's saying what we need is a president that's going to bring us together. What a
this
joke.
is this is like I'm rubber, you're glue, bounces off me and sticks to you. So fact check, flying rich fact check here. Trump doesn't even know what Project 2025 is. That's some think tank that came up with it, and they're trying to pin that on him as though it's his.
Yeah.
And he's going to say that.
Respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came
And notice she shakes her head. It's like liar.
Yep. And
up
that's
with some ideas. I
people
guess
are
some good, some
looking.
bad, but it
She
makes no
knows she's on
difference. I have
camera.
nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounce back, and it bounced back and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you. And
we're bullshit.
He literally just said, "Here's my plan."
when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy, and the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy. What
First
the
off,
Wharton School has said.
I will tell you that Goldman Sachs is going to be absolutely the last people that I'm going to listen to when it comes to
Right.
anything regarding truth about the economy. Secondly, he literally just said, "Here are my plans." He's been consistent with everything else in the
Yeah.
past. This is just my perspective, y'all. And then she's saying, I'm going to bring you an opportunity economy," and then just goes to attacking
Look,
his
I don't want
non-plan.
frickin' handouts. I
But
want
she's not saying anything. She's not
yeah.
saying my plan is to use tariffs and to, do like he's literally going through saying, here's the way that I'm going to make a change. And she's saying, mine's called the bubbly
And
butterfly plan, and then not explaining what it is. It's funny how that works.
and look, legit, I have only worked a couple of months this year, and I'm like way behind financially. When Trump was in office, I forgot what Reagan said, but Reagan said, "Hey, the best fix for the economy is a job." It's like I don't don't make people comfortable in their misery, in their filth, in their whatever. Get people, get businesses rolling, get jobs rolling, get everybody working again.
Very good point, Rudy Finney. He says, she says 2025 is his plan, then says he has no plan, then tells you his plan. Yeah,
Amen. Good catch.
yeah,
I totally, I'm
yeah.
angry, and
Me too. Me too. And there's so
I
much
miss
other
that.
stuff that we have here,
Good catch.
like literal bold face lies. Okay.
Hmm.
And the sad thing here is that like she could say, I have never said that I would ban fracking. And then we could play you a video with video and audio that says, I'm gonna ban fracking. And no one is gonna be surprised. Who's gonna be surprised? Right? But here's the thing.
Hold on. Let me play it now.
All right.
Let's see. Share this tab instead. Okay. Let me go full screen.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So yeah, and starting with what we can do on day one around public lands, right? And then there has to be legislation. But yes, and this is something I've taken on in California. I have a history of working on this issue. And to your point, we have to just acknowledge that the residual impact of fracking is enormous in terms of the impact on the health and safety of communities. Yeah. So thank you.
Oh, I thought this was the one that also said, hold on.
It looks
No,
like that
no.
one didn't include it. I do have it right here. It's on my device. It's not on my computer, but at the end she says, and I'm also gonna,
And offshore drilling.
yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought I had that one. I'm wondering if, anyhow.
I'm in favor of banning fracking. So yes.
Hang on.
And there's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
Oh, you know what? I got that a few times just because it was too funny. Oh, you know what? I didn't record it either.
And then there has to be legislation. And to your point, so would you ban offshore drilling? Yes. And I've again worked on
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Yep.
Is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his
All right.
economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would
And the 16 Nobel laureates, I hit on this already, they are the same effing simps that just sign whatever a Democrat wants them to sign.
Of course, yeah.
And if you look these people up, these individuals, they've been wrong about everything in the last 20 years.
Wrong. Two things: wrong about everything, and they're extreme leftist activists.
invite a
And
recession.
there's the AI.
You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know
You
that
mean the
Donald Trump
recession that we're
actually
in
has
now?
no plan for
Well, and that's the whole thing. What she almost did hope and change, and she also skirted around Build Back Better. And as you listen to this debate, it sounds like her plan is make America great again. What you've been in office 3.5 years. Tell me how Build Back Better went with the Inflation Reduction Act that
Yeah.
actually increased inflation.
I mean, dude, if this was any other situation where there was a candidate and the candidate was running and the candidate came in and there was a debate and then that candidate disappears and some other raggedy dick sucking chick shows up, it's like, whoa, hold up. This would be like one of the craziest situations ever if everyone didn't know that Joe Biden was a total useless bag of bones.
you, because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
It's just a soundbite. They gave her that to say. Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, oh, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something you both brought up. The Vice President brought up your tariffs. You responded, and let's drill down on this because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer.
Not
Vice
always.
President Harris has
Not
argued it'll mean
always.
higher prices on gas, food,
Your
clothing,
your choice.
medication,
Hold on, real quick.
arguing it costs the tip.
Your choice, as let's say China selling Nikes, okay, or Taiwan or wherever the hell they're made mostly. Your choice then is to either give up and stop selling them or take what bit of the market with the increase that you can. There may be some increase, but usually what happens is that prices are brought up a little and then their profit is reduced a little. It is a meeting of the two. It's not always
Yeah.
a massive 20% increase on everything, but guess what? We're already paying 20% more for every single thing out there anyway.
But what Trump's one of his other 3, or one of the 3 debate opponents he has here, he said in a very positive way to basically concede the fact or concede the conjecture that Kamala Harris said that, oh, well, that national sales tax we're talking about that Donald Trump wants to put in place.
Mm-hmm.
He basically affirms her conjecture.
Yeah.
Typical
Big
family
failure.
nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response. And you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is, under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out, when a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do
Or the
to
cloud.
support America's
Oh, the
workforce so
cloud.
that we don't end up having on the short end of the stick in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during
This is
COVID. Look
such
at his
bullshit.
tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point, when we know
Do
that
you
Xi
remember
was
that?
responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President
So
Trump.
so hang on.
First of
Do
all,
you
they
remember
bought
that
the
situation? What she's referring to is, initially China basically refused to shut down airports. China refused to shut down, transit in and out of the country, and it was this huge deal, right? When China did agree finally to stop international flights, he tweeted and said, "Thank you." What she's making it sound like is he's
Yeah.
saying, "Thank you for giving us the coof." Like, come on,
Yes.
bro.
Yeah.
It's so intellectually dishonest, it's nauseating. I mean, that's what I believe she's referring to.
the chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. But
Ooh.
if she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the
I'm
21.
sorry, pause it again.
That's bigger than
What she's doing right now is very strategic, and I find it hard to believe that the camera operators, the campaign, the moderators, that they're all not in on it, because what she was just doing is giving him this look, and this look, while he's talking, it makes him seem crazy. What she's doing is looking at him like, "Wow, I am so fascinated with how crazy you are." Like, it's just this, like, pompous look that, like,
Yes.
see,
The condescending.
yeah, like,
Like,
we know,
all right,
we
that
understand. God, it's so frustrating. I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
yeah,
Go ahead.
I was thinking the exact same thing, but we're gonna be here. We're gonna get 10 minutes into this,
I know,
before we gotta quit.
I know.
New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And that's bad for our economy, too. You know, you mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump. Thank you. Lindsay?
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban, because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, "I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks." But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West
Virginia, right?
Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent
Correct.
job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And
That
her
is 100%
vice
true.
presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years. They've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And
All
through
right.
the
Pause real quick. I know we're going to be here forever, but we got to just do this real quick because I think a lot of people either don't know or don't remember, but it's important that we do this real quick. Let me know when you're ready.
Yeah, go.
No exception. There was a very contentious committee hearing yesterday when Fairfax County Delegate Kathy Tran made her case for lifting restrictions on third trimester abortions, as well as other restrictions now in place. And she was pressed by a Republican delegate about whether her bill would permit an abortion, even as a woman is essentially dilating, ready to give birth. And she answered that it would permit an abortion at that stage of labor. Do you support her measure and explain her answer?
Yeah, and I wasn't there, Julie, and I certainly can't speak for
Wait,
Delegate
was
but
he the guy in the
one
KKK hood
person
or in the
said
blackface?
why decisions
Blackface.
such as this should be
Oh.
made by providers, physicians, and the mothers and fathers that are involved. There are, when we talk about third trimester abortions, these are done with the consent of obviously the mother, with the consent of the physicians, more than one physician, by the way. And it's done in cases where
Funny, it
there
seems
may
like
be
he's
severe
reading.
deformities, there may be a fetus that's non-viable. So in this particular example, if a mother is in labor, I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mother. So I think this was really blown out of proportion. But again, we want the government not to be involved in these types of decisions. We want the decision to be made by the mothers and their providers. And this is why, Julie, that legislators, most of whom are men, by the way, shouldn't be telling a woman what she should and shouldn't be doing with her body.
And do you think multiple physicians should have to weigh in as is currently required? She's trying to lift that requirement.
Well, I think it's always good to get a second opinion and for at least two providers to be involved in that decision, because these decisions shouldn't be taken lightly. And so, I would certainly support more than one provider.
All right, let's go back to the phones now.
So thank God that he's right. He said that the government should not be able to control what a woman should do with her body. And thank God that another living fetus, another human being inside the womb of a mother is not that mother's body. I rest my case.
I think I lost my place on the video, so you want to bring it back up? And
Yeah. And my
Get out
mouse just
here
died.
on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on
I should
goods
go up.
coming into this country.
Let me
The
scroll.
worst period of time, people can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
We're
Vice
a
President
little
Harris,
bit
I do want to ask for your
passive.
response, and you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a
Just a
number of
little.
the Trump tariffs in
Exclamation point, when we know that she was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President Trump. I'll let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window.
So
She's going to
they
my
had an
philosophy now.
abortion
In fact, I
ban
was going to send her a
in
MAGA
front of the
hat. She's
DNC.
gone to my philosophy. But if she ever
They did, and we're still here behind, so I'm just gonna add something real quick while it plays. It's okay. Um, yes, they do like murdering babies. And one other thing, Trump also changed his perspective on the 6 weeks, and it's now he said he's going to be shooting for 15 weeks. Okay, now I want all of you to know that more than 90% of abortions
Yeah.
happen within the first 15 weeks. So what Trump is saying is that he is okay with 90% of abortions.
many of these people coming in are criminals, and that's bad for our economy too. You know, you mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump. Thank you. Lindsay?
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban, because you initially had said
Sorry,
that
just
it was
muted
too
on me.
short.
Give
And
me
you
one
said, quote,
second.
I'm going to
Just
be
a
voting
sec,
that
you
we
can.
need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times.
Can you hear me?
Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick,
Look at
which
this
I think was
scout.
a horrible pick, by the way, for our country,
Mhm.
because he is really out of it. But her vice
It's like,
presidential
really,
pick
little
says
boy?
abortion
Really?
in the 9th month is
Yeah.
absolutely fine.
No.
He also says
Looking at him like a
execution
science
after birth.
project.
It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years, they've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the
Agreed.
genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions, very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. Now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took
You're not
courage
the
to
first
do it.
person to
And the
say that.
Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President.
You see what they're doing?
So they just fact checked Trump and said wrong.
Yep, and this is clearly one-sided. Throughout the rest of the debate, it happens often, and what they do is they shit on him and they uplift her, and
Yes.
we cannot do that, right? Like, if this is supposed to be neutral, right? Like, you and I are coming on here with our opinions, right? So
Yes.
we can do and say whatever we want. We can both say that we intend to vote for Trump and whatever, but if you and I were up there, that is a
Look,
completely different responsibility.
So I would be very in favor of neutral moderators
Mhm.
and like a red and a blue fact check team, and then
Sure.
post on the bottom left, the red guys, on the bottom right, the blue guys, however you want to do it. And let them
Yeah.
post fact check. Fact check. Ralph Northam said this.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
I
And Scoot says she's listening to someone who's telling her what to do. So you're not the first person to say that. That had also been said that someone saw an earpiece. I don't know that that's true, but I will tell you this. uh, In the past, seeing her speak in other situations, she did not come across in the past like she did tonight. Tonight, she came across as very collected, very
mhm,
direct,
mhm.
she
The
was
school bus,
repetitive.
the yellow, and Venn diagrams, and the cloud up here.
Yeah, like tonight she was on her A game, but I think there may have been some other type of foul play. And maybe for him to be able to do this debate with her, maybe he said agreed to her having an earpiece in. I have no idea.
As I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they
Amen.
did exactly as he intended. And now
Amen.
in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it
There's
criminal
no such thing.
for a
Fact
doctor
check.
or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even
There
for rape
is
and
no
incest,
state
which
that gives prison for life for an abortion. Get the fuck out of here.
How come they don't fact check that? I don't get it.
It's interesting. It's almost like they don't want to make her look bad.
understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with
Certainly.
women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare
That's
providers
crazy.
are afraid they might go to
Dude,
jail, and
come
she's
on.
bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't
Oh
want
my
What?
god.
her husband didn't want that.
This
A
is how
12 or
people say
13-year-old
crazy shit in
survivor
the
of
streets
incest
and they truly
forced
believe
to
it.
carry a pregnancy to term. They don't want that.
Forced.
And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will
All right, hold on.
People don't
Fact
even
check.
fucking know what Roe v. Wade is.
Congress can't make a law because the Supreme Court ruled that abortion, the matter of abortion, is a states' rights issue. The Constitution is what created the federal government, and
Yeah.
in the Constitution, it does not specify abortion. All the things that aren't specified, the finite several things that the federal government is supposed to do, if it's not in here, it's a right of the state or a right of the people.
The problem though is that people
proudly
literally
sign it
think
in.
that if Trump is president, abortions are going to be illegal because he,
He
did away with
already
Roe v.
was
Wade.
president.
I know, but they don't. All they're hearing is this
Yeah, I know.
ridiculous banter.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
To law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national
Wow.
abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people
Cite your
believe
source.
that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank
Even
you,
so,
Vice President.
Oh
it's not
wait,
your
wait, wait.
body.
Rudy Finney says Nova H1 audio earrings.
Okay, hold on.
What?
Whoa.
No frickin' way.
Whoa. Whoa. Dude. Okay. Zoom in on her real
Oh,
quick.
I,
Oh my
I,
goodness. They're the
dude, can you
same
bring that up?
earrings.
Can you
They're the
bring that up?
same. Yes. Yo. Yo. It's the same. Dude. I told you she was way more on
The
point.
fudge? The fudge.
All right, I'm bringing it full screen. Yo. My headphones tapped out again. Hang on.
Holy.
Dude, that is insane. I was gonna say, man, I've never heard her this on point and this like
Yes.
specific and direct and man, Rudy, I don't know where you found that, bro, but you're on point.
Nova H1 audio earrings.
How much do those mofos cost?
The fudge. I closed the tab.
Kickstarter. Yo. They're earrings that are AirPods, basically.
Woo!
2.5 hours of talking time, 14 hours of listening time, 7.7 grams each. Wow, you can move them all around your ear. 753 US dollars. Wow.
Holy cheese whiz.
Oh, she would never cheat. She's a Democrat. Man, Rudy, I don't know what we need to drop some like shorts and reels showing that off because when I bring it full screen, I look at her. That is a large pearl, which is exactly the same as those earrings. That's crazy, dude. Mm, I call shenanigans.
Whoa. Let's see. Where am I?
President Harris.
Well, there she goes again.
Mic
It's
drop.
a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says
Probably.
is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it
Well,
came
I
to your
won't
desk?
have to because, again,
It can't
two
happen.
things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote.
Well, you can't. It doesn't
Especially now
matter.
with the 50-50 and essentially 50-50 in
You
both
know, we're
Senate and the
assuming
House.
that they
She's not going to
understand
get the vote.
how
She can't get the
legislation
vote. She
works,
won't even
but
come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of when they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said, "We'll do it again. We'll do it a different way." And he went out, got rejected again
I think
by
we're
the
gonna
Supreme
have
Court.
to
So all these students got
move this to
taunted with this
1.5.
whole thing about this whole idea.
Real quick,
And
pause it for
how
one quick
unfair
sec.
that would have been.
Sorry, guys. I know we keep pausing it. I think we're going to move it to 1.5 so we can get through as much as possible. And also, because Michael James is actually very right, this may get yeeted for various reasons. So, if for some reason we do, I just want to ask you guys do me a favor, follow Flying Rich. You can follow Flying Rich at Flying Rich, all one word on YouTube, and also Flying Rich Firearms. You can also follow me at DLD After Dark, DLD After Dark on everything. And then also my website is DLD Hardware. And we're launching a new knife company called Definition Knives. And we're dropping super fire EDC knives like this and
Woohoo.
much more. So keep that in mind, and we'll go ahead and drop it back back on at 1.5, and we'll go from there. By the way,
Part of
for
the
all
reason
you
they lost
guys waiting on definition knives,
millions and millions of
Benchmade just dropped a new knife for $568, and it's just a manual folding EDC knife with a roller lock. I'm just saying. Yeah.
people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free, but they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, JD Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with JD. In all fairness, JD, and I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me. But I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They
Yes.
couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. Well, wonderful. Let's go to Congress, do it. But the fact is that for years, they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, want to give
No,
you
it
time to
looks
respond,
like
but I do wanna ask you,
I'm
do you
pretty sure I
support
saw
any
it in the
restrictions on a
beginning.
woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is
Oh, that's
happening in our
cute.
country?
All right, he came out a couple of weeks ago saying that he's going to fund IVF treatment, in vitro fetal. Why can I say in vitro fertilization,
Mm-hmm.
and he's going to fund it. Which I don't agree with. I hate to say it. It's not the state's job. You know,
Yeah.
what's in here, man? Just the facts.
Yep, I agree completely. And you know, I've had family members and friends that have had to use, years of treatment to start their family. And you know, we're lucky that we're in a place right now where people can do that. But it's not the position of the government to do that. And when we were able to do something like, you know, like removing Roe v. Wade, or the decision on Roe v. Wade, for an example, any opportunity that we have to remove liberties from the government, we need to take it.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter what
Yes.
it is. It could be about anything. We need to remove freedom and power from the government a little bit at a time.
Working people, working women who are working one or two jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers to go and get the health care she needs.
And I agree with her. I did this sitting on a
Healthcare.
plane next to strangers. I mean, we need our own damn airplanes.
Dude, but it's not about what it is, it's about what it sounds like, right? So
Yes.
she knows they're trying to
She's
make it
painting an
seem
image. Yeah.
exactly. And she's being successful at it, you know? So she's unfortunately doing a very good job.
Barely can afford to do it. And what you are
And it
putting
is
her
not
through
health
is
care.
unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body. And that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris,
Excuse me, I
thank
have to
you.
respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader.
Fact
In
checker.
fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the
No, they're
Alabama
not
courts,
gonna do that.
I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that
Why
question?
don't you
That's
answer
the
the question?
problem.
Would you
Because
veto?
under Roe v.
Answer the
Wade,
question.
Oh, hold on. Whose mic is on at the same time? How
Mhm.
could that be?
Yep.
you
Would you
could,
veto?
you could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th
That's
month,
not true.
and probably after birth. Just look at the former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said, we put the baby
I'm
aside and then we
speaking.
determine what we want to
I'm
do with the baby.
speaking.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to immigration and border security. We know it's an issue that's important to Republicans, Democrats, voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed
How did that go,
We
Kamala?
know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the draft. United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill, which I supported. And that bill would have put
Oh, did it
1,500 more
jump?
border agents on the border to help those folks who are working.
Did it jump?
Seemed like there was some jump.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it was small because they're still on the border, so it's all good.
Yeah.
Working there right now, overtime, trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That
Oh,
bill
that's
would have
cute.
put more
That's cute.
resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill?
This
Donald Trump got on the phone, called up
this
the
is
folks in
not
Congress and said,
honest.
kill the bill. And you know why? Because he
Because it
preferred
was
to run on a problem
$150
instead of fixing
million
a
to
problem.
Ukraine.
And understand, this comes at a time where
$60
the people
million
of our country actually need a leader who
to
engages in
Israel.
solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams,
Yeah,
and
he
your
does.
desires.
That's
And I'll
all
tell
he
you, I
talks
believe you
about.
deserve a
Make
president who actually
America
puts you
great
first,
again.
and I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump,
So it's like, you dumb bitch. Why would you open the lid of that can and talking about rallies when your rallies suck?
I know, it's a joke, and obviously his rallies are so dope that what someone said earlier, his rallies are so dope that even when people start shooting, people don't leave. Here's the other thing. Here's the other thing. Let's be honest. That bill that she's referring to, that he should. This was, I believe, this was when he was in office. You know what?
And she was fact checked to be true, but it needed some context. It's like,
Yeah,
well,
that was not a border bill. They're calling it a border bill. What it was a foreign aid bill that included some border stuff. But if you were to say yes to the border stuff, which they knew that they were not going to, you would have been giving an additional $150 million to Ukraine, another $60 million to um, Israel, and I think there were more like Iranian gender studies bullshit, whatever it was, all of these gender bender bullshit uh, programs. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would
So
like to respond.
Let me just ask, why
Here,
did
keep
you fund
running.
the
I need
bill
to take
successfully
2
so that would have
seconds.
put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border?
First, let me respond to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country. And it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again.
oh, hold on. Let's see. Oh yeah, this is a stutter. My feed is good, so that's kind of weird. So it froze on the CNN feed. So Dark actually looked up articles about this because they fact checked him. This is kind of weird. The moderator went in and fact checked him, said, I talked to, whoever in that town, and they said that nobody's eating the animals. So,
Yeah.
Dark, something weird just happened here.
Mhm.
The stream is still running, but I got nothing. And this is where he's talking about them eating the animals in the town, and I know you looked it up.
Interesting. It's almost like they don't want us to address that information. So let's see.
Fact check the fact check.
I have a report from the Clark County Communications Center showing a call number. This was larceny of a pet. I have the address. I have a unit number. I have, let me see.
I don't have any video or audio anymore. Let me.
Did
I'm
they
at
pull us?
33.
Are we? Oh no, we're
No,
still
on
on.
my YouTube feed here. Not. No, we're good. Let me just reload this.
Contact number for them.
Yeah, I've got no audio on this.
They were Haitian.
More than 2
because-
hours before you sent out.
Goodness. Man, it's really hard to see the text of the call. So basically, it's a Clark County call and to 911.
The United States Supreme Court.
Yeah, we lost a bit here. They actually were fact checking him, saying that it's not true that they're eating the animals there.
Yeah, I don't have everything. I could share this if you guys want. Let me know. Otherwise,
Yeah,
let's just keep moving.
Recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of
I'm
Justice
quoting,
against his political
terminate.
enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand
Wrong,
what it would mean if
wrong.
Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails, because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people
Vice
to
President
stop
Harris,
him.
thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy with a fake Russia investigation that went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now
I'm
your
sorry.
campaign says you don't.
We gotta address that. First off, he never said, and she said, I am quoting, terminate the
That's
Constitution of the United States. That is absolutely untrue. He's never said anything of the like.
They didn't fact check her on that.
Of course not. Even if he's done some unconstitutional things, which he absolutely has. What was the other thing she said that was factually untrue?
Oh, I don't know.
It was something else right around that time. I feel bad because I want to address everything, but it's I know it's hard. Can you go back like 15 seconds? I'm sorry.
People
Vice
to
President
stop
Harris,
him.
thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized.
Terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if we were back in the.
Yeah, that was also debunked on like every single platform, including leftist media as well. So when he
White
said
House
that
with no
D-Day,
guardrails, because certainly we know now the court won't stop
that's
him. We know
where,
J.D.
like,
Vance is not going to stop him.
fools or
It's
whatever.
up to the American people
Vice
to
President
stop
Harris,
him.
thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy with a fake Russia investigation that went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your
Shut
last
up.
run for
Yeah.
president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted.
Shut up. You're making a point.
I know, right? Like let me stop you. You're making too much too much sense here.
Mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States. And in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act.
That almost has the same cadence. We don't need another whatever mayor. We don't need another.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So yeah, and starting.
So just so you guys can hear
I'm
it.
in favor of banning fracking. So yeah,
So yes, I'm in favor of banning fracking, and there's another clip that says I will ban offshore drilling.
Offshore drilling. Yep. Can you still hear me okay?
which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes
reduce
that we
foreign
cannot.
oil
So
and use
if
our own reserves. That's what we're going to do.
and I don't know if they include the increase as releasing the reserves that we have, but if you stomp the F out of the industry and then it creeps back, you could say you increased it a lot. Yes.
Of course.
Over
And
rely on
if
foreign
we're
oil.
trying to
As it
refill our
relates to my values, let
reserve,
me tell you, I
then
grew up
yeah,
a
we can make
middle-class
it
kid
look like
raised by a
we're,
hardworking
you
mother
know,
who worked and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is
Not everybody
bullshit.
had a cock shoved in their mouth and got their way into, higher office because of it.
I'm actually curious how many dicks have been inside her mouth, but we can talk about that on another show.
the value that I bring to my work to say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase 3 million homes, increase by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is related to having a friend.
You mean like your administration got what, $7 billion to build electric charging stations and build 6?
3.
3. Oh.
Yeah,
When I was in
3.
high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about
How?
protecting Social Security and
How?
I hate to say it, if you're for women not getting exploited, how is it you have the border open? How is it that women send their daughters across the border and they send them with abortion pills, the
For
RU-486 or whatever it is?
for cash. I mean, and they're literally selling them. How are we literally funding the biggest human trafficking organizations in the world? And by you letting
And
them come in.
yeah, the coyotes are connected to the Mexican cartels, and the Mexican cartels are
Yep.
making bank on people paying to get across.
And just
Medicare.
like, hey, Fire Router, just like we have seen in the past, we were the ones that have literally sat back and armed every single terrorist organization that we have gone to war with. You guys just wait. Just wait. You will find out that your government has been working directly with the most dangerous cartels in the world, not just in South America and Central America, some of the most dangerous cartels over on the eastern part of the world. And you're going to find out that we have been funding and even providing different levels of support to these terrorist groups or cartels. And it is going to come back to bite us one day, just like every other terrorist organization that we funded and then fought later on.
Is based on longstanding work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down.
How?
And name calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
How?
President
How?
Trump, your
Well, first of all, I
response?
wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave
Yep.
all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now.
She was giving
You don't
out the
mind,
phone
please.
number.
Does that sound familiar? She went out in
Ooh.
Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis, she went out and raised money to get them out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think of. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison.
Yep.
This is a radical left liberal that would do this.
What a
She wants to
joke.
confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish, one thing so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead. Fossil fuel will be dead. We'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar, but they take
Sir.
400, 500 acres of desert soil. These are not good things for the environment. She understands.
Thank
We
you.
don't have time to
Libby,
talk
thank you.
about
We have an
deserts.
election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of a president in a moment of crisis.
We don't have
Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video
was
message
green on
telling
green.
your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said,
and this is where I put it out. This is the when did you stop beating your wife question.
Yep.
And
yep.
he re-asks this question 2 more times. So
It's
for a total
painful.
of 3 times, he asks, like, when did you stop beating your wife, President Trump?
And he's like, he
anything
answers
that
it like,
isn't
I'm
covered
against the
peacefully
beating of
and
wives.
patriotically. I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar. Remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, well, I'm
She
surprised you're not
is.
talking about the border yet. That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America? They're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world, and crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me
But
just
when are
ask
those, David, when are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted? Or in Seattle, they went into Seattle, they took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just ask
You might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes, sir.
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened.
They fact-checked him that he didn't offer 10,000 National Guard or soldiers.
What did he offer? 9,999.
I don't know. I didn't read deeper into it. Just the terse fact check was that.
I want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't
That's
responsible
true.
for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do
That's
her job.
true.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi. But I
Third time he re-asked, like, when did you stop beating your wife?
do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the
No, you
vice
weren't.
president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was
Hold on,
there.
was she not there?
And on that day,
She was
She
at
was
the
not there.
Capitol and left, and then went to the DNC headquarters where there was a pipe bomb found.
Yeah, I've never heard anything about that pipe bomb. I'm super, super suspect about that.
So, yeah, the whole pipe bomb, like, don't you think, like, my life was threatened not only when I was at the Capitol from the J6 protesters, but somebody planted a pipe bomb in front of the DNC building when I was there.
Yeah, I call bullshit.
hmm
president of the United States incited a violent mob to attack
No,
our nation's capital, to desecrate our nation's capital.
He
On that
never
day,
did.
140 law enforcement officers were
fact
injured,
checker.
and some died. And understand, the
No,
Nobody
former
did.
president has been
No one
indicted and
died.
impeached for exactly that reason.
Hold on.
But this
so,
is not an
okay,
isolated.
so it's important that everyone understands there were no law enforcement officers from January 6th that died. There was one that died from a stroke after January 6th, the one that they lied about and said was hit over the head with a fire extinguisher, which also did not happen. That was debunked.
And you
as
can
well.
see the video of him walking around after the time when they said he was hit with a fire extinguisher over the head.
Situation. Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying
Another
tiki
lie.
torches, spewing anti.
All right, hold on. I gotta. Where's my
cool.
fact checking Kamala full Q&A?
Here,
I've got the
you go
entire
ahead. Give me
video,
1
but
second.
I
You go
really
ahead.
don't want to play it. So
Just
uh,
just play that little like 40-second segment. Give me 1
Let's
second. I'll
see.
be right back. 1 second. I'll be right back.
share this tab instead. Boom.
on his statue. So you know what? It's fine. You're changing history. You're changing culture. And you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should
wait, hold on.
You know what? It's fine. You're changing history. You're changing culture. And you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay? And the press has treated them absolutely unfairly. Now, in the other group also, you had some fine people, but you also had troublemakers, and you see them come with the black outfits and with the helmets and with the baseball bats.
I had very learned friends argue that this was not said. This is the footage, and it's the same clip where he says there were fine people on both sides, and then a few moments later he says, but not these people, I condemn them totally, the neo-Nazis and the white supremacists. That's what he said. And every news agency took the clip from a few moments before and completely ignored this. Anderson Cooper, all of these wonderful talking heads, 100%, just ignored the facts. And so even left-wing Snopes, boom, no, Trump did not call neo-Nazis and white supremacists very fine people. Snopes actually changed this. So, even NBC came out prior to the Biden debate, the Biden-Trump debate, and said, yep, this Snopes is correct.
Anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side. Let's remember that when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia, the former president said, stand back and stand by. So for everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was, I say, we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page. And if that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand for country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath. If this and the is not to his
that's another thing that needs to be fact-checked. When Trump said there would be a bloodbath, he was talking about the Chinese building car manufacturing facilities in Mexico, and he was talking to the auto workers union and said, if I don't get elected, the auto industry in the US will have a bloodbath. So they took, if I don't get elected, there'll be a bloodbath, and left out in the middle of that, the auto industry will experience a bloodbath. That's what he said. I know I don't have an exact quote, but I watched it, I heard it, I listened to it, and that was the freaking quote. So, not true.
Liking. Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this. You talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The president of the United States, you'll get him out of bed. You'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You'll say, come on down to.
All right. So I think his mind is going a million miles a minute, and he needs to slow down, and he needed to, be more concise and coherent. And I know what he's saying, I know what he's meaning, but he's like he he did not articulate really well here. And so if you, and I'm not saying I know Trump because he's my buddy, no, not the case. I've watched him over the years. I understand how he thinks and talks and what he means. I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, and I'm not trying to, mansplain, like when they say Biden said, Mexico, I talked to the president of Mexico when he meant to say the president of Egypt. But, that was okay. I'm not doing that. Yes. So he should have said executive order because the president is in control of the border. Congress gave the president that power. They signed, originally it was Congress's right in the Constitution. Congress gave the president that authority. Technically, there should have been a constitutional amendment.
To the office, let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed. Those people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you because it really brings us this.
So again, if you notice the strategy and the tactic of the moderators, they're like, point schpoint. We're moving on. We're not even going to address that.
Into focus truth in these times that we're living in. Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge it at all. I said that sarcastically. You know that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has. 63, which was what I got in 2016. You can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls. And we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them
No judge looked at it.
And
so again, he went to the, when did you stop beating your wife 3 times? And he's never hammered Harris again on a question she didn't answer.
Neither one of them. And none of them, this is just super frustrating. None of them even asked her to clarify something when she totally neglected to answer a question at all, and no one asked any follow-up questions, but they gave her more time. I was clocking it. One of her responses was 2 minutes and like 36 seconds. His was like 40 seconds. And they were like, it's insane, dude. This is,
Said we didn't have standing. That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The president of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news. And the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President Harris, you heard the president.
Oh, good point. It's a good point on the President Trump's part when they immediately shut him down and change topic and move.
Wasn't there tonight. He said he didn't say that he lost by a whisker. So he still believes he did not lose the election that was won by President Biden and yourself.
Yeah, and she thinks Kathy Abrams won the election. Again, I've seen this a lot. I mean, look at the Al Gore George Bush election. They were constantly changing the rules on how they wanted the ballots counted and could not come up with a win.
But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he has had.
I got to say, fired by 81 million people is a great line. She really did a good job with that. Ooh, I have no control over the user interface here. So Mike McClune's comment is there. I'm hidden by Mike McClune. So I'm over here.
Having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as vice president of the United States, and world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump.
All right. But how would Trump? Can you remove the banner?
Yeah, sorry.
How would President Trump and properly former President Trump, who isn't in control of anything, cheat on this election? And they're and again they say threat to democracy. It's a republic.
Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you then
The people
talk
he
in this
fired.
way in a
State your
presidential
sword.
debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did in fact lose that election, it leads one to believe that perhaps.
All right, there were no court cases on the election.
Yeah.
I mean, look, even
Weren't they cases that were not allowed, and like
correct,
they
correct.
tried to file and they were
Yes,
told they couldn't,
correct.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
So even Pennsylvania, the legislature is the only one that can change election rules and election law, and the Supreme Court in Pennsylvania changed election rules and election law. That was an improper execution of justice. That was petitioned to the Supreme Court.
Keep going. Give me 1 sec.
Yeah, that was petitioned to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court did not take it up.
We do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
I'll give you 1 minute to respond, Mr. President.
Let me just say about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men. They call him a strong man. He's a tough person, smart. Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago, it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in our country, he ended that. But he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look, Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president. But when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. But he got 14 million votes. They threw him out. She got 0 votes. And when she ran, she was the first one to leave because she failed. And now she's running. I don't understand it, but I'm okay with it because
your time is up.
All right. So there are a couple of problems here. He's communicating very rapidly. And the point that he's making is Biden sucked at the last debate. They threw him out and they put her in. She did not get any primary votes to be president like Biden did, and that is a democratic process when you vote. Did it crash? What do I got here? I'm just doing some commentary. You hear me, Josh? So, boy, her expressions. She pushes every button I got. I'm not sure what point I was making at, but hold on.
We're going to do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning now
Yes.
to the Israel-Hamas war and the hostages who are still being held, Americans among them. Vice President Harris, in December, you said, quote, Israel has a right to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how, saying international humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100 hostages remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
Well, let's understand how we got here. On October 7, Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis, many of them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly raped. And so absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters, because it is also true, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed, children, mothers. What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately. And the way it will end is we need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock on that. Work around the clock, also understanding that we must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that solution, there must be security for the Israeli people and Israel, and an equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran.
this administration is slow walking weapons, in resupply of munitions to Israel at this moment.
And any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
Okay,
President Trump, how would you
let me
negotiate?
real quick. Okay, so did you hear what she said? Okay, because she has to simp to both the the Israel supporters and the Free Palestine supporters. Did you hear what she said? She said we must have a two-state solution on this to bring the war to an end. Now, the interesting thing is that when Trump was asked about Ukraine winning, and he specifically said that the war should come to an end,
Yes,
and if he were
yes.
to, come into office, that may have been one of the parts that was cut out. But if he were to come into office, that he'd be able to end the war, within the first day or two or whatever. And then the guy came back and said, "No, I'm asking you again to answer the question specifically. Basically, do you want Ukraine to win?" And he's like, "It's not about Ukraine winning. It's about the war ending, which is most important." They
Right.
couldn't. They were not satisfied with that answer. They could
No,
not
no, you're right. They
like
went to the well many times
exactly. But the
on
moment
Trump.
she says the same thing about two different nations fighting, it's
It's
okay.
fine.
This is
Yeah.
clearly, we're dealing with the same bullshit that we've dealt with in every single election, in every single debate, in every single situation where you have such a divisive, nasty, evil, just disgusting people running the show. It's atrocious.
So I got a question here. We're 58 minutes into this. There's like another 45 minutes to go. I am like running
Let's
on
let's
vapors.
let's put it on 4x. And I'm just kidding. Let's go ahead and cut it. We can come back another night. I know we already went for a couple hours, and then coming back and going for a couple hours way late into the night is a lot. And if you can't tell, I have a project that's going on in the background here, and it's loud. So it's all good. We can notate this timestamp and come back to it and finish it up later with these fine young ladies and gentlemen
Yeah, on both sides.
on both sides, because there are certainly fine people on both sides. Now, I'm not talking about the Nazis and
white
neo-Nazi,
supremacists.
white nationalists. I'm specifically talking about the protesters. Those other people, they should be
Condemned.
condemned for sure. But anyway, we could go ahead and close out. So go ahead, Rich. You do the thing. What can they do to
So
support you and stuff?
yeah, all of my social media is on flyingrich.com. I'm prolific on Flying Rich Firearms on YouTube and Flying Rich on YouTube, and of course Flying Rich _actual on Instagram.
And if you could stare Kamala cocksucker Harris in the face tonight and tell her one sentence, what would it be?
Stick with your core strengths.
Yikes. I think she may have aged out of that role. I'll tell you what,
Close
the
your eyes,
best
it's all the same.
yeah, the best laugh that I had tonight was when she introduced herself as a prosecutor, and I think it was Johnny Propane or Johnny Three Bar. I'm sorry, somebody said it. They said, "Did she just introduce herself as a prostituter?"
Yes, yes, that's what it sounded like to me.
I was like, "Dude, that was so epic." Um, I would tell her that you will only find freedom one way, and you'll never feel freedom like you feel freedom when you have Christ in your life. And then I would punch her in the dick. I'm just kidding. Sorry. Um, Anything else you want to add before we close out here?
Just I don't think it was a good showing for Trump. I think
Agreed.
Kamala had a good night. I hate to say she had a victory
No, she
because
had good earrings. That's what she had.
ooh, yeah,
Sorry, I'll shut up. I'll let you talk.
yeah. I think Kamala had a good night. I think, look, they were saying Biden won the last debate, and then they quickly, shut him down and swapped in a Kamala. I really would like to see another debate, another style debate. I would love to see debate on OAN or, another network that wouldn't defend Kamala so highly.
Yeah, we won't though, unfortunately, before the
Right.
election. Yeah. Okay, well, everyone, make sure you support Flying Rich. Go to
Thanks.
Flying Rich, all one word, on YouTube, Flying Rich Firearms on YouTube, and also on Instagram and all that stuff. But it's Flying Rich _official on Instagram because some dirtbag took Flying Rich. And me, I'm Dark from DLD After Dark. I run a YouTube show every Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays around 10 p.m. ish, depending on traffic. And come check it out. And also own DLD Hardware. And yes, free Matt Hoover, free Justin Irvin, and FATF. And yeah, check out Definition Knives. We'll be launching very soon, just within the next 2 to 3 weeks. Some super dope, very affordable knives here that really were made and inspired off of getting pissed off for the anti-gun company Benchmade selling knives for $200 to $300 that should all be under $100. And then, of course, it blew up to be way more than that. So you can follow that on Definition Knives on Instagram, and then soon enough we will have definitionknives.com up and running. We're just getting some stuff done on the back end there. All of our knives are gluten-free. They are, I'm just kidding. All of our knives, well, technically they
Keto
are.
friendly.
Yep. All of our knives are going to be at this point under $100. Most of these that I was showing are $59 to $79, and they're all D2 tool steel, 8CR13 MOV steel, very high quality stuff, very nice stuff. So yeah, check them out. And guys, in closing, what I'll do here is I'll close the same way that I close every other stream that I do, which is this. It's important that all of you take a stand for what's right and what's righteous. It's time right now to get right with your families, to get right with God. And it does at times feel like we're edging closely to the end. So we got to make sure that we do everything we can as leaders in your family, in your community, in your church, and wherever you may be, to be a warrior of God and to stand up for what's right and what's righteous. And one of the ways that we do that is by having our own rules, our own standards, our own expectations for ourselves and others. Of course, build a group in prep, all right? At least have a fire team of 6 guys. Woo, that's not good. Silly German grenade fell again. Don't touch that. And some of the rules we like to share with you guys are rule number 1, be kind. It's so important to be kind in everything that we do. That brief interaction that you have with somebody else could have a massive impact on their life. So be kind. Rule number 2 is to live a life of care, compassion, contribution, give to others. When you bless others, you become blessed, because a hand that's open to give is open to receive. And then rule number 3, because we know the only way for us to defeat evil is with good men skilled in violence. Make sure that you're becoming as highly skilled in violence as you possibly can be, and be safe, be dangerous, and keep that thing on you. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're out of here. Rich, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in, and thank you to Josh with the Off the Range podcast, Black Diamond Guns and Gear, and FatTac. This episode was sponsored by FatTac for all of your large tactical needs. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.
Yeah. You're good. Let me whisper a secret. Don't tell mommy what I told you. You got it?
I'm recording.
Oh, you're recording. Not good at selfies?